Chapter 169. Afterwards, Xianxia and the supervisor of the auction house, Urian, discussed some other matters. In the end, Xianxia left the two Class 5 magical beast corpses in the auction house and left by himself. After Xianxia's departure, only the appraiser and Urian remained in the quiet room. Old Mr. Huang closed the door of the secret room and returned to his seat. His gaze lingered on the space belt in Urian's hand for a while before he said to Urian, "Urian, the magic cores of these two Class 5 magical beasts, do you think it's possible that Wu Yun has them?" Urian gently stroked the spatial belt containing the two 5th-tier magic beasts with her slender fingers. Even though it was covered in blood, she didn't show any disgust or disgust as a woman. "It's very likely. From the wounds on the two magical beasts, they should have killed each other. In the end, both sides were injured and someone took advantage of the situation. From the wounds where the monster cores were taken out, the person shouldn't be very powerful. At the very least, he should be far weaker than the Class 5 magical beasts. Otherwise, it would have been extremely easy for him to take out the monster cores. It would have been impossible for the wounds to be so messy," Urian said after some thought. "However, we can't rule out the possibility that the two Class 5 monster cores have really been taken away by someone and that person called Wu Yun just picked up the corpses of the two Class 5 magical beasts for nothing. However, the possibility of that is extremely small. Only Earth Saint Masters or Heaven Saint Masters would not care about the corpses of Class 5 magical beasts. However, the two Class 5 magical beasts' monster cores were clearly not taken away by someone like that." Old Man Huang nodded with that. "Then it's very likely that the two Class 5 magical beast cores are with Wu Yun." "Yeah, it's very likely." Urian nodded in agreement. Then she sighed and said, "Forget it. Whether the Class 5 monster core is with Wu Yun or not has nothing to do with us. We just need to do our job well. Although the Class 5 monster core is expensive, compared to the reputation of our Heavenly Phoenix auction house, it is insignificant. All right, Old Huang, let's not think about the matter of the 5th-order monster cores. We just need to focus on our work." This time, we were able to discover two 5th-order monster cores by accident. This is a very rare opportunity for our Tianfeng auction house. We must make good use of this opportunity and increase the reputation of our Tianfeng auction house. "Yes, I understand." Master Huang nodded. "Also, we still have to keep the matter regarding Wu Yun a secret. We definitely can't leak any information about the owner of a Class 5 magical beast. Otherwise, not only will our Heavenly Phoenix auction house not gain any benefits, it will also greatly affect our reputation." Just how important reputation is to an auction house, I'm sure Old Huang is clear about that. Although Urian's voice was very soft, it was filled with an unquestionable tone, as if she was a superior commanding officer. "Yes, this old man understands," Master Huang hurriedly replied. After leaving the Heavenly Phoenix auction house, Xianxia specifically chose to walk along the crowded streets. After making sure that no one was following him, he slowly arrived at a secluded alley. Looking at the two sides of the alley, Xianxia hesitated for a moment before taking out his light wind sword and cutting open the door. He quickly entered the small house. The small house was very dark and had very little visibility. There were only a few simple pieces of furniture inside, and from the thick layer of dust on the table, it was clear that no one had lived in this house for a long time. After casually looking around, he immediately took out some items from his space pouch and began to clean up his appearance. He even changed his clothes and changed his hairstyle before leaving the wooden hut. He then walked out of the alley from the other end of it. When Xianxia once again appeared in front of everyone, he had already returned to his original appearance. Even his aura had undergone a subtle change. At this moment, even if Master Huang and Urian were to stand in front of Xianxia, they probably wouldn't be able to connect the current Xianxia with the previous Wu Yun. The difference between the two was simply too great. Xianxia first went to buy a detailed map of Phoenix City before walking to the Heavenly Wind auction house. He familiarized himself with the surroundings of the Heavenly Wind auction house before taking a stroll around the area. Although the corpses of Class 5 magical beasts were very common in large cities where experts gathered, in a place like Phoenix City, they were very precious. Jianshan guessed that the auction for Class 5 magical beasts this time wouldn't be so peaceful. Thus, he had to familiarize himself with the surroundings. If he were to encounter any unexpected situations, he would have a way to escape without being forced into a panic. For the entire afternoon, Jianshan walked around the nearby area. He didn't miss a single street or alley. When night fell, Jianshan finally returned to the inn that he had prepared beforehand. After a simple dinner, Jianshan closed himself in his room and sat cross-legged on the bed with his eyes slightly closed. However, Jianshan didn't cultivate at this time. Perhaps it was because his strength had increased too quickly, or perhaps it was because he had been borrowing the energy from monster cores to cultivate, causing some problems in his body. Ever since he reached the high level of Saint Master, Jianshan gradually discovered that his control over the Saint force in his body was no longer as smooth as before. He could no longer command it as he wished. Although the current problem wasn't too serious and didn't affect his battle prowess much, Jianshan was very clear in his heart that if this situation wasn't resolved, it would definitely have a huge impact on him in the future. Thus, during this period of time, Jianshan didn't cultivate. He was afraid that if his strength increased too quickly, it would cause this problem to worsen. If it reached a point where even he couldn't control it, then it would be very troublesome. Chapter 170. For the entire night, Jianshan sat on his bed, constantly refining the Saint force in his body to ensure that he could control it like an extension of his arm. Before the hidden danger in his body was completely eliminated, Jianshan did not dare to continue cultivating. He was afraid that the hidden danger would continue to grow. The Saint force in his body flowed through his meridians under Jianshan's control. As the Saint force followed a fixed path through his meridians, Jianshan could clearly sense that his control over his own strength was constantly increasing. At the same time, the compatibility between the Saint force and his body was slowly increasing. At the same time, Jianshan discovered that as his blood constantly flowed through his body, some of the wondrous factors in his blood began to change his body and organs at an extremely slow rate. This was the anti-poison factor he had absorbed from the silver-striped golden snake's blood. Although the anti-poison factor had already fused with Jianshan's blood a year ago, it would take a long time for it to change his body and organs. It was not something that could be done in a short period of time. Right now, Jianshan's body and organs only contained a very small portion of the anti-poison factor. His body of impenetrable poison was only at the initial stage. Only when all of his flesh and organs contained the anti-poison factor would his body of impenetrable poison reach the grand ascension stage. The night passed peacefully just like that. When the sun rose the next morning, the Saint force that had been circulating in Jianshan's body for an entire night slowly gathered in his dantian. In the end, it formed the shape of a sword. Although it was still a little blurry, it was clearly much clearer than when Jianshan had just become a Saint Master. After leaving his room, Jianshan went to the first floor of the inn and casually ordered some magical beast meat before enjoying his breakfast. With his current strength, he would not feel the slightest bit hungry even if he did not eat for an entire day. However, eating 3 meals a day had gradually become a habit for Jianshan. Unless there was a special situation where he could not eat, Jianshan would not miss a single meal. Tasting delicious food was actually a form of enjoyment as well. Because it was the peak time for eating in the morning, the few tables in the inn were quickly filled. A large number of people dressed as mercenaries sat around the wooden tables in groups of 3 to 5. They loudly discussed recent events and their own experiences, causing the entire inn to become noisy. Jianshan sat at a table by himself and slowly enjoyed the dishes he had ordered. As he enjoyed the food, he listened to the mercenaries chat. "Hey, brothers, this morning, the Heavenly Phoenix auction house sent out news that a 5th-rank magical beast will be auctioned in the annual large-scale auction in a few days." The one who spoke was a youth wearing a cyan robe. "What? A Class 5 magical beast? Oh heavens, that's a high Class 5 magical beast that's no weaker than an Earth Saint Master. How can the Heavenly Phoenix auction house have a Class 5 magical beast? Buddy, you're not lying to me, right?" As soon as the young man finished speaking, someone immediately spoke out in disbelief. A confident smile appeared on the face of the young man in azure robes. With a sinister smile, he said, "Brothers, why don't we make a bet? If what I said is false, then I lose. If what I said is true, then I win. What do you think?" "All right, let's make a bet. I don't believe that a Class 5 magical beast would appear in a second-class city like the Phoenix City to be auctioned." Someone immediately shouted out. "I've lived for over 30 years. Although I've heard quite a bit about Class 5 magical beasts, I've never seen one with my own eyes. All right, I'll make a bet as well. I'll bet 2 gold coins. If the Heavenly Phoenix auction house really does have a Class 5 magical beast up for auction, then even if I lose these 2 gold coins, it won't be a loss." Another person at the same table spoke out. The conversation at this table was quite loud, so it quickly attracted the attention of a few people who were eating nearby. Immediately, someone stood up and walked over to the table. He cupped his hands and said, "Brothers, you just said that the Heavenly Phoenix auction house will have a Class 5 magical beast up for auction. Is this true?" Hearing this, the young man chuckled and said, "Brother, since no one believes that this matter is true, then why don't we all make a bet? Wouldn't that be more interesting?" That person slightly hesitated before finally nodding his head and agreeing, "All right, then I'll bet 5 gold coins. If the Heavenly Phoenix auction house really does have a Class 5 magical beast up for auction, then even if I lose these 5 gold coins, it won't be a big deal." "All right, I'll also make a bet. I've been in Phoenix City for 20 years and I've never seen a Class 5 magical beast up for auction. Furthermore, I've never even seen a Class 5 magical beast before. Class 5 magical beasts usually only appear in King-tier cities. They're even rarely seen in first-tier cities. For a Class 5 magical beast to be auctioned in a second-tier city like Phoenix City, this news is most likely fake. Forget it, since everyone is so interested, I'll also make a bet. This news is definitely fake. I'll also make a bet. If a Class 5 magical beast were to appear in an auction in a first-tier city, then it would be somewhat believable. However, for it to appear in a second-tier city, then that's clearly impossible." The conversation at these tables quickly attracted the attention of everyone who was eating in the restaurant. Immediately, everyone's interest in the Class 5 magical beast was greatly piqued and they all joined in on the bet. Seeing the actions of these people in the restaurant, Xianxia, who was sitting to the side and slowly enjoying his food, bitterly smiled and shook his head. Right now, he was asking himself whether it was a wise decision to auction 2 Class 5 magical beasts in a second-tier city like Phoenix City. However, Xianxia was even more clear in his heart that if he were to auction the Class 5 magical beasts in a first-tier city or King City, he would definitely be able to sell them for a good price. However, the pressure he would face would be even greater. This was because almost all of the powerful experts were gathered in prosperous places. If someone were to cause trouble for him in those places, then it would be very difficult for him to deal with them. However, it was completely different in a second-tier city like Phoenix City. In a place like Phoenix City, Earth Saint Masters were extremely rare. Even if a great Saint Master came to cause trouble for him, he would still be able to deal with them. It was precisely because of this that Xianxia decided to auction the Class 5 magical beasts in Phoenix City. Just as the people in the restaurant were in full swing discussing the Class 5 magical beast, the sound of gongs and drums suddenly came from outside. Don't. Important news, important news. The Heavenly Wind Auction House will be auctioning 2 Class 5 magical beasts in their annual auction in 9 days. This news not only caused the people outside to become dumbstruck in an instant, but the originally noisy restaurant also became completely silent in an instant. Everyone's faces were filled with disbelief. Chapter 171. Although there was only a difference of 1 rank between a Class 5 and a Class 4 magical beast, this difference was a qualitative change. Class 4 magical beasts were nothing in the Tianyuan continent, but Class 5 magical beasts were extremely precious. This was not only because Class 5 magical beasts were much stronger than Class 4 magical beasts, but also because Class 5 magical beasts were extremely difficult to kill or capture. 5th-rank magical beasts already possessed a certain level of intelligence, and due to their innate advantage, a 5th-rank magical beast's strength was generally stronger than a human of the same rank. Therefore, in a one-on-one situation, it was very difficult for a human to kill a 5th-rank magical beast. Moreover, in the circle of 5th-rank magical beasts, there was an unspoken rule that if they killed each other, the other 5th-rank magical beasts would not interfere. However, once they encountered an invasion by a human, they would cooperate with each other and work together to resist the human. This was why 5th-rank magical beasts were so rare. Hearing the sounds of gongs and drums outside, Xianxia felt extremely surprised. Although he knew that the Heavenly Phoenix auction house would definitely publicize the news of a Class 5 magical beast, he never thought that they would use such a method. The sounds of gongs and drums, as well as the crackling of firecrackers, could be heard from the streets outside. The news that the Heavenly Phoenix auction house would be holding an auction for a Class 5 magical beast spread like wildfire throughout the city. In less than half a day, almost the entire city knew that the Heavenly Phoenix auction house would be auctioning off a Class 5 magical beast. The appearance of a Rank 5 magical beast in a second-class city like Fengyang City was an extremely shocking and rare occurrence. In order to make this auction as grand as possible, the Tianfeng auction house spared no effort in promoting the news. Not only did the entire Fengyang City know about the appearance of a Rank 5 magical beast, even the people in the surrounding cities also knew about it. In a short period of time, the news that the Heavenly Phoenix auction house would be holding an auction for a Class 5 magical beast in a few days had already spread to a radius of several thousand kilometers. Not long after, various large powers and people who were interested in the Class 5 magical beast all set off towards the Phoenix City. In the center of Fengyang City, there was a huge mansion quietly standing there. At the entrance of the mansion, there were 10 armored soldiers standing straight outside the tightly shut door. Their bodies did not move at all, as if they were stone sculptures. Above the entrance, there was a huge sign with the words City Lord's Mansion written on it. Each word was bold and powerful. Just these 3 words alone gave people a sense of pressure. This mansion was the City Lord's Mansion of the Phoenix City. At this moment, in an elegant garden within the City Lord's Mansion, a middle-aged man wearing a white robe was practicing martial arts with a large blade in his hand. His movements were incomparably fast as he quickly moved back and forth in the garden. The large blade in his hand had already been swung around by him, creating afterimages that densely covered the space in front of him. It was impossible to pinpoint the exact location of the blade. Powerful and vigorous saint force was emitted, causing the space in front of him to slightly distort. At this moment, an old man who looked like a housekeeper quickly walked in from outside. Looking at the middle-aged man practicing martial arts in the garden, he said, "City Lord, we just received news that the Heavenly Phoenix auction house will be auctioning off 2 Class 5 magical beasts in this year's large-scale auction." "What? Class 5 magical beasts?" Hearing this, the middle-aged man who was practicing martial arts in the garden suddenly stopped what he was doing. Turning his head, he looked at the housekeeper with a face full of shock and said, "Housekeeper Cheng, what did you just say?" The housekeeper repeated what he had said before. After hearing this, the middle-aged man's face became even more shocked. There was a faint trace of disbelief on his face as he said with a tone full of disbelief, "Housekeeper Cheng, the Heavenly Phoenix auction house will be auctioning off 2 Class 5 magical beasts. Is this true?" "City Lord, this news was spread by the Heavenly Phoenix auction house. Moreover, this old man also went to the Heavenly Phoenix auction house. This old man personally went to the Heavenly Phoenix auction house to confirm this matter. This matter is absolutely true," the housekeeper said with a firm tone. "In these past few decades, Class 5 magical beasts have only appeared in our Phoenix City 2 or 3 times. But this time, they are actually auctioning them off. This is the first time in these past few decades that we have seen such a thing." The middle-aged man frowned as he pondered for a moment before continuing to ask, "Housekeeper Cheng, do you know who made these 2 Class 5 magical beasts? They actually brought such precious things to our Phoenix City to be auctioned off. This matter is a little strange." This old man does not know. The middle-aged man had already expected the old man's answer. There was not the slightest trace of dissatisfaction on his face. After muttering to himself for a moment, he said, "Housekeeper Cheng, go and invite the owner of the Heavenly Phoenix Auction House, Zhou Tian, to our residence as a guest. City Lord. In a house in Phoenix City, an old man was sitting in a bookish study room, reading a book in his hand. At this moment, there was a knock on the door from outside. Hearing this, the old man frowned slightly and said with dissatisfaction, "Who is it? Didn't I say not to disturb me when I am reading? Father, it's your son. Your son has an important matter to report to you. Come in." The door opened and a middle-aged man dressed in black walked in. "Father, I just received news that the Heavenly Phoenix Auction House will be auctioning off 2 Class 5 magical beasts this year." "What? Class 5 magical beasts?" Hearing this, the old man was slightly shocked and immediately put down the book in his hand. He turned his head to look at the middle-aged man standing in front of the desk and said in a deep voice, "Jen, is this true? Your son personally went to the Heavenly Phoenix Auction House to inquire, and it is absolutely true." The middle-aged man slightly lowered his head and said with certainty, "Class 5 magical beasts are extremely rare in a second-class city. Where did the Heavenly Phoenix Auction House get Class 5 magical beasts?" The old man softly muttered to himself. Suddenly, his eyes flashed and he looked at the middle-aged man and asked again, "Jen, do you know if the Heavenly Phoenix Auction House is auctioning off a Class 5 magical beasts monster core or a Class 5 magical beasts infant? Or should I say, is it just a Class 5 magical beasts corpse?" Your son does not know. The Heavenly Phoenix Auction House is very strict about this kind of information. Furthermore, only a few of the upper echelons know about it. Your son was unable to obtain any more information from them. Immediately go and investigate. The old man immediately ordered. The news of a Class 5 magical beast not only attracted many people to come to Phoenix City to observe, it also attracted the attention of various large powers. In the next few days, there was an endless stream of people rushing to Fengyang City from all directions, causing the number of people staying in Fengyang City to increase rapidly. Very soon, all the inns and restaurants in the city were full. As the number of people staying in the inns increased rapidly, the price of the inns also skyrocketed. Very soon, it had risen to 10 times the usual price. At the same time, the security of Phoenix City was extremely tight these few days. Groups of armored soldiers could be seen patrolling the streets. Chapter 172. Right now, Fengyang City could be said to be filled with all kinds of people. Because of the news of Class 5 magical beasts, not only did it attract the local powers of Fengyang City, it even attracted a lot of foreign powers. At the same time, the surroundings of the Heavenly Phoenix Auction House became strange. Almost every day, there would be people dressed in all kinds of clothes lingering around the Heavenly Phoenix Auction House. Their eyes would constantly scan the people entering and exiting the Heavenly Phoenix Auction House. Although the Heavenly Phoenix Auction House had kept a tight lid on the information regarding Class 5 magical beasts, there was no way they could hide the truth forever. Under the all-pervasive investigation of the various major powers, they were finally able to obtain more specific information regarding the Class 5 magical beasts and the origins of the 2 Class 5 magical beasts on the day before the auction. 2 Class 5 magical beast corpses that had lost their monster cores and a mysterious outsider whose strength was unknown. He was definitely not an Earth Saint Master. This was the information that the various powers found. Even though the results were not satisfactory, it did not reduce their interest in the Class 5 magical beasts at all. In a restaurant in Fengyang City, several middle-aged men were gathered in a small room. Investigate. Order everyone to go and investigate. We must find out who the person who auctioned off the 2 Class 5 magical beasts is. The 2 Class 5 monster cores are definitely on him. Also, that person will definitely appear in tomorrow's auction. Tell people to pay close attention to anyone who enters or exits the auction house. A middle-aged man wearing a white robe ordered in a low voice. In a luxurious manner in Fengyang City, in the discussion hall, a middle-aged man with a dignified face sat at the head of the table. He looked down at the middle-aged men and old men sitting below him and said in a deep voice, "We've already found out about the Class 5 magical beasts. Even though it's just 2 corpses without monster cores, their value is still very high. It's said that eating the flesh of Class 5 magical beasts can not only greatly strengthen one's physique and slightly increase one's saint force, but the essence, blood, and organs of the Class 5 magical beasts can also increase one's chances of breaking through to the Earth's Saint Master realm. Therefore, in tomorrow's auction, we must try our best to get the 2 Class 5 magical beasts. Even if we can't get both, we must at least get one of them. In addition, the 2 Class 5 monster cores must still be on that person's body. The value of a Class 5 monster core is even more precious than a Class 5 magical beast's corpse. This is something that's rarely seen in Fengyang City in the past few decades. Therefore, our Huangpu clan must obtain these 2 Class 5 monster cores. Tomorrow, send more people to make arrangements. We must find out just who auctioned the Class 5 magical beasts. Patriarch, although the news says that the person who auctioned the Class 5 magical beasts isn't very strong, he was able to obtain 2 Class 5 magical beasts corpses. This in itself shows that he's not simple. I'm guessing that there might be a powerful expert supporting him from behind. A white-haired old man sitting below cupped his hands and said, "Impossible." The middle-aged man at the head of the table immediately denied this and said, "The news we've received is very clear. These 2 Class 5 magical beasts killed each other, and in the end, they were taken advantage of by someone else. Moreover, from the wounds where their monster cores were taken out, that person's strength isn't very strong. Therefore, everyone's worries are completely unnecessary." Patriarch is wise. This old man was muddle-headed. The old man cupped his hands and then sat down again. "Alright, time is of the essence now. Next, let's discuss tomorrow's arrangements." In the pitch-black night, Fengyang City appeared to be very quiet. Only groups of patrolling soldiers were constantly shuttling through the various streets and alleys. Currently, Fengyang City had gathered various powers from various places, causing the entire city to become a mixed bag of crooks and honest people. The city lord of Fengyang City had no choice but to send a group of soldiers to patrol through the night to ensure the safety of the entire city. In various places within Fengyang City, different low voices of discussion and orders could be heard. However, all of these voices were related to the Class 5 magical beasts and the mysterious person who auctioned them off. The night passed very quickly. When the first light of dawn had just risen in the distant horizon in the east, the Heavenly Phoenix auction house, which was located in the center of Fengyang City, had already opened its doors. Outside the doors, there were already lanterns and colored banners. Many auction house employees were busy outside. Even further away, there were many people dressed in different attire waiting for the auction to begin. Today was the day of the Heavenly Phoenix Auction House's annual large-scale auction. In the past, the Heavenly Phoenix Auction House would be the most lively day of the year. Today, the Heavenly Phoenix Auction House would be auctioning off Class 5 magical beasts that were rarely seen. Therefore, this year's auction was much more lively than before. Thus, there were many people waiting outside the auction house even before dawn. After dawn, the sun had just risen. When the sun emitted a fiery red radiance as it slowly rose from the distant horizon, more and more people had gathered outside of the Heavenly Phoenix auction house in Phoenix Sun City. They had already blocked off several nearby streets, making it difficult for the carriages and caravans to move even a single step. A large number of people had been waiting here for about 2 hours. Along with the deafening sounds of gongs and drums and a series of firecrackers, this year's annual large-scale auction had finally officially begun. However, not just anyone could participate in this year's auction. In the past, every time the auction opened, there would be a ticket fee, and this year was no exception. However, perhaps because of the Class 5 magical beast, the ticket fee this year was especially expensive. The original price of 5 gold coins had risen to 50 gold coins, which was 10 times the original price. Although the actions of the Heavenly Phoenix auction house had caused many people to be dissatisfied, it still couldn't stop those who had a lot of money in their pockets. Moreover, the actions of the Heavenly Phoenix auction house had also eliminated some people who were only here to watch the fun and not buy anything, leaving enough space for those who were extremely interested in the 5th rank magical beast. As the doors to the interior of the auction house officially opened, the people who had been waiting outside for a long time held onto their tickets and entered one after another. Xianxia had also returned to his appearance as the middle-aged man who had entered the Heavenly Phoenix auction house last time. He blended into the crowd and followed the flow of people as he slowly walked into the auction house. Chapter 173. The space was divided into 2 levels. The upper level was also filled with seats, and the total number of seats on both levels exceeded 10,000. There were also several dozen VIP rooms on the edges. The VIP rooms were isolated from the outside by a special kind of glass, so the scene outside could be clearly seen from the inside. However, from the outside, it was impossible to see the situation inside the room. In front of him was a 2-meter-tall booth. The auction items would also be displayed on the booth, but at this moment, the booth was covered by a huge red cloth, so the situation inside could not be seen at all. Xianxia found an inconspicuous and remote seat and sat down. He then quietly waited for the auction to begin. Around him, people continuously walked over and sat down. After about 2 hours, there were no empty seats left in the huge auction house. Moreover, there were still many people standing and crowding in the empty space at the very back. When everyone was seated, 2 brilliant fireworks suddenly shot out from the ground in front of them. Immediately, the huge red cloth that covered the entire booth began to slowly rise. As the red cloth rose, the scene hidden behind it slowly appeared in everyone's line of sight. An old man in his 60s stood straight on the auction stage. In front of him was a dark red wooden table. The old man looked around and cleared his throat. He then loudly said, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our Heavenly Phoenix Auction House's annual auction. This old man is Gurong. This time, I will be the host of the auction. I hope that everyone will be able to find something they like in this auction." The old man paused for a moment before continuing. "This year's auction will be the most intense and the most lively one since the establishment of our Heavenly Phoenix Auction House. This is because in this year's auction, our auction house will be displaying 2 extremely precious items for public auction. As for what those items are, I believe that many of you already know. This old man will not waste time here. Alright, I now announce that the auction officially begins. I never thought that the host of the auction would actually have the strength of a Saint Master." Looking at the old man on the booth, Xianxia inwardly muttered. The old man's words were completely shouted with saint force, so in this huge space, almost everyone could hear him. Following the old man's order, over 10 half-naked men walked out from behind the booth. They scattered around the booth and swept their sharp gazes across the crowd below. They were clearly guarding against people with ill intentions. Immediately after, a young and beautiful woman in revealing clothes slowly walked out from behind the booth. She held a tray covered by a red cloth high above her head and walked with nimble and small steps to the front of the host. She then squatted down and carefully placed the tray in her hands on the table in front of the host. "Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the auction of the first item. Just what is this item covered by a red cloth? Let me show it to everyone." As he spoke, the host reached out and removed the red cloth, revealing a jade bottle that was half the size of a palm. The first item to be auctioned is the 100-grass Divine Effect Pill. I believe that everyone present is familiar with the 100-grass Divine Effect Pill. In the area of healing, it is a rare medicine. With the 100-grass Divine Effect Pill, it is equivalent to having an additional layer of protection. This bottle has a total of 500 grass divine pills. The starting price is 10 purple crystal coins. Every increment must not be less than 1 purple crystal coin. The auction will now begin. 11 purple crystal coins. 12 purple crystal coins. 13 purple crystal coins. 15 purple crystal coins. As soon as the host finished speaking, the crowd below began to fight fiercely. The 100 Herbs Divine Efficacy Pill had an extremely good healing effect. Regardless of whether it was external injuries or internal injuries, once the 100 Herbs Divine Efficacy Pill was consumed, the injuries would quickly stabilize and heal. Although the effect was not as miraculous as the Radiant Saint Force, it was still popular among many people. This was because Radiant Saint Masters were extremely rare on the Tianyuan continent. Their status was extremely high as well. Only a few large organizations and clans had the ability to hire Radiant Saint Masters to serve them for a long time. This was why healing medicines were still very popular on the Tianyuan continent. The higher the quality of the medicine, the higher the price. Xianxia sat there quietly as he watched the people fighting over the 100-grass divine pill. A faint smile appeared on his face. Although the 100-grass divine pill was very effective in healing, it was completely useless to him who could control Radiant Saint Force. After a round of fighting, the 100-grass divine pill was finally purchased by someone for the high price of 28 purple crystal coins. Afterwards, items were brought up for auction one after another. There were many strange items and rare treasures. However, there was nothing that caught Xianxia's interest. Very soon it was noon. At this time, the attendants of the auction house delivered lunch to everyone who participated in the auction. However, the auction did not stop because of this. Instead, it continued. As the strange items and rare treasures were auctioned off one by one, the auction reached its final moments very soon. Ladies and gentlemen, the following items will be the last 2 items of this auction. They are also the items that everyone is most interested in. At this point, the host's tone suddenly paused. He glanced around and found that everyone was in high spirits. They were all staring at the booth attentively. The host smiled and said, "I think everyone has been looking forward to the last few items for a long time. Since that's the case, I won't waste any more time. Men, bring the items up." As soon as the host finished speaking, a few burly men walked out from the back with a stretcher. With their appearance, almost everyone's gazes gathered on the stretcher. The stretcher was covered by a layer of wide black cloth, making it impossible to see what was inside. However, from the protruding part, everyone could guess what was inside. Chapter 174. At that moment, the gazes of over 10,000 people gathered on the stretcher covered by the black cloth. A Class 5 magical beast. Even though it was only a corpse, it still attracted the attention of so many people. Many of them understood that this was probably the only time in their lives that they would see a Class 5 magical beast. After all, Class 5 magical beasts were not like Earth Saint Masters. They could be casually seen in a few bustling cities. There were even Earth Saint Masters in a few large organizations and sections. However, Class 5 magical beasts were different from humans. They usually stayed in their own territories and rarely ventured outside. Even if they did, it would be very difficult for those who had seen them to survive. As a result, Class 5 magical beasts were not something that the weak could see. When the host lifted the black cloth that covered the stretcher, the thing hidden under the black cloth finally appeared before the eyes of the tens of thousands of people who were looking forward to seeing it. It was a pitch-black magical beast the size of an ox. A few people with exceptional eyesight or those who were close enough could even clearly see a pair of short black wings on the back of the magical beast. The magical beast silently laid on the stretcher without moving at all. Its body was 4 to 5 meters long, making it seem like a small mountain. Is this a Class 5 magical beast? A Class 5 magical beast actually looks like this. It doesn't seem much different from a Class 1 or Class 2 magical beast. I've finally seen a Class 5 magical beast today. This trip has been worth it. These 50 gold coins were well spent. It really is the corpse of a Class 5 magical beast. It looks like it should be a winged god bull. Along with the appearance of the corpse of the 5th rank magical beast, the originally silent auction hall was instantly filled with a large number of buzzing sounds. Everyone's eyes were gathered on the corpse of the 5th rank magical beast on the display stage, and the sound of discussions and exclamations did not stop. Among them, many had lived for dozens of years, and today was the first time they had seen a 5th rank magical beast. Although it was only a corpse, it made them feel satisfied. Cough cough. Suddenly, a coughing sound spread throughout the auction venue. Following this coughing sound, the noisy auction venue gradually quieted down. The auctioneer on the stage smiled at the tens of thousands of people participating in the auction. He loudly announced, "Everyone, the corpse of the magical beast before me is the Class 5 winged god bull. Even though it has lost its monster core, it's still extremely valuable. I'm sure everyone knows that if you eat the meat of a Class 5 magical beast over a long period of time, not only will it strengthen your body, even your saint force will increase slightly. Moreover, it's said that it can even increase your chances of breaking through to Earth's Saint Master. The originally quiet auction venue once again became noisy after hearing the last sentence of the auctioneer. Everyone's eyes were heated as they stared at the rank 5 magical beast's corpse on the stage. Their hearts were filled with desire and greed. On the Tianyuan continent, there was indeed a rumor that if one ate the meat of Class 5 magical beasts over a long period of time, it could increase the chances of a great Saint Master breaking through to Earth's Saint Master. Earth's Saint Master. It was a simple phrase, but in the eyes of the tens of thousands of great Saint Masters on the Tianyuan continent, it was unreachable. Although there was only a single step between Earth's Saint Master and Great Saint Master, this single step had blocked the path of countless people. On the Tianyuan continent, who knew how many people had lost their lives trying to break through to Earth's Saint Master? This was because the only way to break through from Great Saint Master to Earth's Saint Master was to shatter the saint weapon in one's body into powder and absorb a large amount of energy to refine the powder one by one. Only by doing this could one be considered to have successfully broken through to Earth's Saint Master. However, the saint weapon was everyone's saint weapon. Once it was damaged, the owner would be injured as well. Once the saint weapon was shattered, there would only be two outcomes. The best outcome would be losing all of one's saint force and becoming a cripple who could no longer cultivate. The worst outcome would be directly losing one's life. As a result, less than 1% of the people on the Tianyuan continent could successfully break through to Earth's Saint Master. Once they failed, they would either become a cripple or die. Just this single step had blocked the path of countless great Saint Masters. There were even quite a few great Saint Masters who were unwilling to take the risk and would rather remain at the same level of cultivation until they died of old age. As a result, the small chance of breaking through to Earth's Saint Master from eating the flesh of a Class 5 magical beast moved everyone present. At this moment, the auctioneer's loud voice rang out once more. Now, we will be auctioning off the corpse of the Class 5 heavenly winged bull. The starting price is 5,000 purple crystal coins and each increment must be no less than 100 purple crystal coins. I'll bid 6,000 purple crystal coins. As soon as the auctioneer finished speaking, someone from a VIP room immediately made a bid. 6,500 purple crystal coins. Another voice rang out from the VIP room. 6,600 purple crystal coins, 6,700 purple crystal coins, 7,000 purple crystal coins. Throughout the auction venue, shocking bids came from the VIP rooms one after another. At this time, no one in the auction venue could get a word in edgewise. Wanting to bid for a Class 5 magical beast was not something that could be done with just money. At the same time, one needed to have a certain level of strength. Otherwise, the Class 5 magical beast would probably be snatched away as soon as it left the auction house. As a result, the people who were bidding for the Class 5 magical beast all had a certain level of strength. They were not worried about it being snatched away from them. 8,000 purple crystal coins. The bidding for the Class 5 magical beast was extremely intense. In the blink of an eye, the price had shot up to 8,000 purple crystal coins. Moreover, the rising momentum showed no signs of stopping. 8,500 purple crystal coins. This Class 5 magical beast's corpse is ours for sure. Anyone who dares to compete for it will become an enemy of the Yulan clan. A deep voice rang out from a VIP room. The voice was filled with arrogance. Clearly, the owner of the voice was determined to obtain the Class 5 magical beast's corpse. The Yulan clan? Could it be the Yulan clan from Flaming Cloud City? It's actually the Yulan clan. The Yulan clan is the #1 clan in Flaming Cloud City. They are extremely powerful. Even the city lord of Flaming Cloud City treats the Yulan clan with respect. I didn't expect them to participate as well. Hearing the words Yulan family, the auction hall was instantly filled with a buzz of discussion. Even though the Yulan family was not a local power in Phoenix Sun City, they were still very powerful and had quite a bit of influence in the nearby area. Ha, people of the Yulan clan, you can't say that. This is an auction house. No matter what the item is, it will be won by the highest bidder. Our Harito clan is bidding 10,000 purple crystal coins. This class 5 magical beast's corpse is ours for sure. Just as the person from the Yulan clan finished speaking, a slightly aged voice rang out from the VIP room opposite them. Harito clan? Isn't that a power from Yellow Earth City? Yellow Earth City is 1,000 li away from Phoenix City. I didn't expect them to come as well. The Harito clan is extremely low-key. Although they aren't even in the top 10 of Yellow Earth City, no power dares to offend them. Even the biggest clan in Yellow Earth City, the Bai clan, doesn't dare to underestimate the Harito clan. That's right. I remember that a few years ago, the #1 clan of Yellow Earth City, the Bai clan, had a profligate son who offended the little princess of the Harito clan. In the end, he was beaten up by the little princess' personal guards. After that, the Bai clan didn't even dare to fart. It is said that the Harito clan is the most powerful clan in Yellow Earth City. It's just that they are extremely low-key and don't reveal themselves. There are even some people who don't know of the Harito clan. As soon as the Harito family's words fell, the entire auction hall was filled with a buzz of discussion. For a long time, no one made a bid. Even the Yulan family, who had been determined to obtain this class 5 magical beast, had suddenly become mute. Yellow Earth City, Harito clan. Xianxian's heart stirred as he instantly memorized this clan. From the current situation, he could tell that the Harito clan wasn't simple. After a moment of silence, a middle-aged man's voice finally sounded from a private room. Haha, I didn't think that even the Harito clan would be so interested in this class 5 magical beast. Since that's the case, then our Muda clan will not participate in the fight for this magical beast. I hope that the Harito clan will let us have the next class 5 magical beast. Hehe, of course, one magic beast is enough for our Harlador clan. As for the remaining one, we will not participate in the contest. A slightly aged voice rang out from the Harlador clan with a faint smile on his face. Since that's the case, then our flowing cloud sword pavilion will also give the Harito clan some face and give up on this class 5 magical beast. Our Yang Gate will also give up on this class 5 magical beast's corpse. Following the Harito clan's declaration, all the powerful factions gave the Harito clan some face and gave up on competing for this class 5 magical beast. On behalf of the Harito clan, this old man thanks everyone for going easy on us. The old voice from the Harito clan said with a faint smile. Soon after, the heavenly winged divine bull's corpse was successfully purchased by the Harito clan for 10,000 purple crystal coins. Now, we will begin the auction for the second class 5 magical beast's corpse. And bring it up. Following the auctioneer's words, another stretcher was brought up. This stretcher was also covered by a large black cloth. This time, the auctioneer didn't waste any time. He directly lifted the black cloth and said, "This magical beast is also a class 5 magical beast, the Quick Cloud Beast. At the same time, it is also the last item in this auction. The rules are the same as last time. The starting price is 5,000 purple crystal coins, and each increase must not be less than 100 purple crystal coins." Following the auctioneer's words, terrifying numbers were once again announced from the various boxes. Perhaps it was because this was the last class 5 magical beast, but the competition this time was much more intense than before. Very soon, the price had risen from 5,000 purple crystal coins to 15,000 purple crystal coins. 16,000 purple crystal coins, 17,000 purple crystal coins, 20,000 purple crystal coins. In less than the time it took to brew a cup of tea, the price of the Quick Cloud Beast had risen to a terrifying 20,000 purple crystal coins. Moreover, there were still quite a few factions competing for it. Hearing the constantly rising price, Xianxian couldn't help but reveal a trace of a smile. Although the first class 5 magical beast's corpse had only been sold for 10,000 purple crystal coins, which was a bit low, the second magical beast in front of him could probably make up for the first magical beast's low price. My Muda clan bids 22,000 purple crystal coins. My Yulan clan bids 23,000 purple crystal coins. My Jialua clan bids 23,000 purple crystal coins. The Streamcloud Sword Pavilion bids 24,000 purple crystal coins. My Yang sect bids 25,000 purple crystal coins. My Black Cloud sect bids 26,000 purple crystal coins. The bids were incessant. This was the last Class 5 magical beast's corpse, and the various factions were fiercely competing for it. Everyone was increasing the price by 1,000 purple crystal coins. Very soon, the price of this Class 5 magical beast's corpse had risen to 40,000 purple crystal coins. The Yulan clan bids 45,000 purple crystal coins. Following the Yulan clan's bid of 45,000 purple crystal coins, the entire auction house immediately quieted down. Only the heavy breathing of countless people could be heard. 45,000 purple crystal coins had already exceeded the limit of what some factions could bear. Although Class 5 magical beasts' corpses were rare, they could still be seen in some large cities. This price had already exceeded the value of a Class 5 magical beast. After all, the Quick Cloud beast was only an ordinary Class 5 magical beast, and not an exotic species like the golden striped silver snake. After a moment of silence, the originally lively auction house was finally broken by a voice. My Muda clan bids 46,000 purple crystal coins. The Muda clan had once again surpassed the Yulan clan in terms of price. Bang! Just as the Muda clan's voice faded, a dull sound suddenly came from the box belonging to the Yulan clan. In the VIP box of the Yulan clan, there were a total of 5 middle-aged men and an old man. A middle-aged man wearing a white robe heavily slammed his fist on the incense wood table in front of him, smashing a hole in it. The Muda clan actually dares to make things difficult for my Yulan clan. Very well, I will make you regret this. The middle-aged man wearing the white robe had a sullen expression as he gnashed his teeth and spoke. As for the other people, their expressions weren't very good either. If this continues, I'm afraid that the price of this Class 5 magical beast will rise to a level that even we won't be able to bear. The old man's expression was somewhat gloomy as he spoke. Other than this, what else can we do? This Class 5 magical beast has attracted many people. Right now, the factions that are still competing for it aren't any weaker than our Yulan clan. The middle-aged man wearing the white robe spoke somewhat angrily. The Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion bids 47,000 purple crystal coins. Just at this moment, another bid was heard. Seeing the price rising higher and higher, the expressions of the Yulan clan members became increasingly unsightly. Chapter 175. 50,000 purple crystal coins. This Yulan clan is truly worthy of being the #1 clan in Flaming Cloud City. They are truly wealthy. This Yulan clan is truly wealthy. They are actually willing to pay 50,000 purple crystal coins for the corpse of a Class 5 magical beast. This seems to have exceeded the value of a Class 5 magical beast. Following the Yulan clan's second bid, the auction hall was immediately filled with a buzz of discussion. Xianxia, who was seated among the crowd, also revealed a surprised expression. Although a Class 5 magical beast was precious, there was still an upper limit to its price. 50,000 purple crystal coins had indeed exceeded the price it was worth. In the box of the Wandering Cloud Sword Pavilion, a few people in white robes sat with serious expressions. There were a total of 8 of them. Aside from 2 handsome youths who seemed to be in their 20s and a beautiful young lady, the other 5 were middle-aged men. The beautiful young lady who seemed to be in her 20s said, "This Yulan clan is truly determined to obtain this Class 5 magical beast's corpse. The price is already increasing. If this continues, even if our Wandering Cloud Sword Pavilion is able to successfully obtain this Class 5 magical beast, we will have to pay an extremely high price in terms of money." The young lady's voice was like a yellow spirit bird, extremely pleasant to the ears. It said that the old patriarch of the Yulan clan is preparing to break through to Earth's Saint Master. With the help of this Class 5 magical beast's corpse, his chances of success will increase by a lot even though it won't be 100%. This Class 5 magical beast is indeed very important to them, said a middle-aged man. My master has already been stuck at the peak of Great Saint Master for more than 10 years. It's because he can't guarantee that he will be able to successfully break through to the Earth Saint Master realm. If we obtain this Class 5 Magical Beast Corpse, my master might be able to successfully break through to the Earth Saint Master realm. Once my master successfully breaks through to the Earth Saint Master realm, the strength of our Wandering Cloud Sword Pavilion will increase by several levels. The person who spoke was a young man who seemed to be in his 20s. When his master was mentioned, a trace of pride appeared on his face. This was because his master was the pavilion master of the Wandering Cloud Sword Pavilion. A middle-aged man in a white robe said, "That's right. We have to do our best to get this Class 5 Magical Beast Corpse. Although it's easier to find Class 5 Magical Beast Corpses in some king cities, we're very far away from any king cities. Moreover, the road isn't very peaceful. Even if we buy it, it'll be very difficult to transport it back from the king cities. If we don't handle it well, we might even be robbed on the road. So right now, this Class 5 Magical Beast is the safest choice." With that, the middle-aged man in white robes. And the middle-aged man in white robes. The middle-aged man hesitated for a moment before slowly nodding his head. He raised his voice. "My Drifting Cloud Sword Pavilion bids 55,000 purple crystal coins." As soon as his voice fell, a series of low and deep exclamations came from the auction venue again. However, not long after the exclamation, another angry roar was heard from the opposite room. The Yulan clan bids 60,000 purple crystal coins. Hearing the Yulan clan's bid, the expressions of the people in the Wandering Cloud Sword Pavilion's box turned unsightly. 65,000 purple crystal coins. After a moment of silence, the Wandering Cloud Sword Pavilion's vice pavilion master made another bid. Currently, many major powers had already withdrawn from the contest for the Class 5 Magical Beast. Only the Wandering Cloud Sword Pavilion and the Yulan clan were still unwilling to give up. Bam! The sound of a table and chair shattering could be heard from the Yulan clan's box. Clearly, the Yulan clan was truly angered by the Wandering Cloud Sword Pavilion. Because of this sudden sound, the entire auction hall fell silent. Everyone raised their heads and looked in the direction of the Yulan clan's box. Wandering Cloud Sword Pavilion, this Class 5 Magical Beast is very important to our Yulan clan. Can't you give it to our Yulan clan? After this, our Yulan clan will definitely reward you handsomely. An aged voice sounded from the Yulan clan's box. The anger contained in that voice couldn't be concealed. My apologies. Our Wandering Cloud Sword Pavilion also needs the corpse of this Class 5 Magical Beast. As long as you can suppress us in terms of price, we will naturally give up. As soon as the aged voice sounded, a vigorous voice sounded from the Wandering Cloud Sword Pavilion's box. It wasn't hard to tell that the person who spoke was the Vice Pavilion Master of the Wandering Cloud Sword Pavilion. Alright, Wandering Cloud Sword Pavilion, our Yulan clan will remember you. 70,000 purple crystal coins. The Yulan clan was practically gnashing their teeth as they made the bid. This time, the Wandering Cloud Sword Pavilion didn't make another bid. After waiting for a few breaths of time, the auctioneer standing on the stage finally spoke. The Yulan clan bids 70,000 purple crystal coins for the corpse of the Class 5 Magical Beast, Quick Cloud Beast. Are there any higher bids? Even though there were over 10,000 people seated in the auction hall, it was completely silent at this moment. After waiting for a moment, the auctioneer saw that no one else made another bid. Thus, he raised his voice once again, Yulan clan, 70,000 purple crystal coins going once. Within the Wandering Cloud Sword Pavilion's box. Vice Pavilion Master, although the Yulan clan's influence in Flaming Cloud City is strong, our Wandering Cloud Sword Pavilion isn't any weaker than them. Are we really going to give up on this Class 5 Magical Beast? The Phoenix Sun City isn't too far away from our Wandering Cloud Sword Pavilion. It's much safer to transport the Class 5 Magical Beast back from here. This is a rare opportunity for us. A middle-aged man spoke. Sigh. Hearing this, the Vice Pavilion Master sighed and said, "We aren't afraid of the Yulan clan. It's just that the value of a Class 5 Magical Beast has already exceeded our bottom line. Our Wandering Cloud Sword Pavilion doesn't have the financial backing of the Yulan clan. With the current high price, even if we successfully obtain the Class 5 magical beast, our Wandering Cloud Sword Pavilion's financial resources will definitely be depleted. This is extremely disadvantageous for us. Are we really going to give up just like this? This is such a good opportunity. A young man said with an unwilling expression. We can only give up now. Furthermore, even if we purchase the corpse of the Class 5 magical beast, it's hard to say if the Pavilion Master will be able to successfully break through to the Earth Saint Master level with its help. If the breakthrough fails, it will be a huge loss for our Wandering Cloud Sword Pavilion. We can't bear the consequences. The Vice Pavilion Master said in a deep voice. Hearing this, the others silently nodded their heads. How difficult was it to break through from Great Saint Master to Earth Saint Master? Even with the help of a Class 5 magical beast, there was no guarantee of success. If they failed, they would either become a cripple or lose their lives. Yulan Clan, 70,000 purple crystal coins going twice. Is there any higher bids? Yulan Clan, 70,000 purple crystal coins going. Chapter 176. I bid 100,000 purple crystal coins. A deep voice suddenly sounded from the auction hall. Although the voice wasn't loud, it still spread throughout the auction hall. Hearing the bid of 100,000 purple crystal coins, everyone in the auction hall was stunned. Not only them, but even the people in the Yulan family's box were dumbfounded. 100,000 purple crystal coins. Although a 5th-rank magical beast was precious, it wasn't priceless. 70,000 purple crystal coins was already a very high price. 100,000 purple crystal coins was far more than a 5th-rank magical beast should be worth. Following the bid of 100,000 purple crystal coins, the entire auction hall became dead silent. It was so quiet that even the sound of a needle falling to the ground could be heard. Only the heavy breathing of tens of thousands of people could be heard. Xianxia, who was sitting in an inconspicuous corner, was also shocked by this voice. However, his heart was filled with excitement. As the seller, he naturally hoped that his item would sell for as high a price as possible. However, this time, the price had risen from 70,000 purple crystal coins to 100,000 purple crystal coins. This really surprised Xianxia. Furthermore, what surprised Xianxia the most was that the voice didn't come from the VIP box, but from a place not far from him. Xianxia turned his head slightly and looked in the direction of the voice. In the end, his gaze fell on a person wearing a long gray robe. That person was an old man who looked to be in his 50s or 60s. His long black hair was coiled around his head like a flower bud, and there were some wrinkles on his old face. After a moment of silence, the entire auction venue broke out into a noisy discussion. Everyone couldn't help but look at the source of the sound. However, only a few people were able to capture the location of the person who made the bid based on the sound they just heard. The auctioneer standing on the stage was also shocked by this high price. After being stunned for a moment, he regained his senses. With an excited expression, he shouted with a trembling voice, 100,000 purple crystal coins. 100,000 purple crystal coins. Someone has bid 100,000 purple crystal coins. Are there any higher bids? In the private room of the Yulan family, the faces of several members of the Yulan family had turned ashen. However, no one said a word because even they were shocked by the high price. 100,000 purple crystal coins going once. Are there any higher bids? 100,000 purple crystal coins going twice. 100,000 purple crystal coins going thrice, sold. As the auctioneer fiercely pounded the wooden mallet in his hand, the second-class magical beast, the Quick Cloud Beast, was finally bought by someone for the high price of 100,000 purple crystal coins. Alright, this year's auction has officially come to an end. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. We will meet again on this day next year. Now, all the guests who have won their bids, please head to the backstage to collect your items. The host, Gurong, had a brilliant smile on his face. He had been hosting auctions in the Heavenly Phoenix auction house for dozens of years, and this year's auction was the grandest one he had ever hosted. This was because an item worth 100,000 purple crystal coins had been auctioned off by him. To an auctioneer like him, this was definitely a supreme honor. After the auction ended, The people who had won their bids left their seats and headed to the backstage to pay the corresponding amount of money to exchange for the items they had won. After a slight hesitation, Xianxia also stood up and headed to the backstage of the auction house. He also had to go to the backstage to collect the money he had won from the two-class magical beasts. When Xianxia arrived at the backstage of the auction house, there were already quite a few people gathered there. This was the place where the people who had won their bids could collect their money. More than 100 people consciously lined up here, holding a small token that was specially issued by the auction house as they waited quietly. Mr. Wu Yun, our manager Yulian is waiting for you in the guest room. Please follow me. At this moment, a slightly aged voice sounded beside Xianxia. The appraiser of the Heavenly Phoenix auction house, old Mr. Huang, was standing beside Xianxia and speaking in a low voice. Because Xianxia's appearance was still that of a middle-aged man, old Mr. Huang was able to recognize him at a glance. Then I'll have to trouble old Mr. Huang to lead the way. Xianxia smiled and said politely. Old Mr. Huang did not waste any more words and turned around to walk inside. Xianxia also followed closely behind old Mr. Huang. However, just as Xianxia took a few steps, he suddenly stopped and turned his head slightly to look at the small door he had just entered from. He saw two people wearing gray robes walking side by side as they slowly walked out from the small door. Of the two people, one was an old man and the other was a middle-aged man. The old man was the one who had bid a high price of 100,000 purple crystal coins for the corpse of the Class 5 magical beast, Swift Cloud Beast. Two distinguished guests, please follow me. Just as the two of them appeared, a waiter immediately went up to greet them. Lead the way. The old man said indifferently. Following that, he followed the waiter and walked towards the stairs leading to the second floor. Wait! At this moment, a loud shout suddenly sounded. As soon as the voice sounded, several middle-aged men aggressively ran in from the small door and surrounded the two people in gray robes. This scene attracted the attention of all the people handling the transaction. Immediately, everyone turned their heads and looked at the scene with interest, as if they were waiting to see a good show. However, the waiter's expression did not change. This was not the first time he had seen such a scene. He tried to persuade them, Sirs, this is the Heavenly Phoenix auction house. Get lost. However, before the waiter could finish his words, he was fiercely pushed away by a man. The powerful force on his arm directly pushed the waiter's body back more than 10 meters, and finally, with a bang, the waiter fiercely slammed into the wall. His head made intimate contact with the hard wall, causing the waiter to faint on the spot. Traces of blood were left on the wall. Seeing this scene, Xianxia's expression changed slightly. A trace of strong killing intent flashed in his eyes. He obviously could not stand the rude and unreasonable behavior of these people. However, he did not lose his reason and rush up on the spot because he also knew that his current situation was not very optimistic. There must be many people asking about the Class 5 Magical Beast Core. Chapter 177. Hearing the middle-aged man's words, the surrounding people were shocked. They looked at the gray-robed elder in astonishment. They had never imagined that the person who had spent 100,000 purple crystal coins to purchase the corpse of a Class 5 magical beast would actually be this ordinary-looking elder. The gray-robed elder revealed a cold smile and said, That's right, I was the one who purchased it. The elder's tone was very calm. Hearing this, a trace of joy appeared in the eyes of the middle-aged man who spoke. He then sized up the ordinary-looking old man before him and sneered, Very good. You actually dare to go against our Yulan family. You must be tired of living. If you know what's good for you, hurry up and hand over the Class 5 demonic beast. Otherwise, you'll have a good time. It's actually someone from the Yulan family. This Yulan family is really arrogant. They actually dared to do such a thing in front of so many people in the auction house. Seeing the arrogant appearance of the Yulan family members, Xianxia, who was standing in the distance, frowned slightly. The gray-robed old man and the middle-aged man beside him exchanged glances. A cold smile appeared on their faces at the same time, following which, the old man's seemingly ordinary soul gradually turned sharp. He stared straight at the middle-aged man who had just spoken and sneered, "What does the Yulan clan amount to? Get out of my way. You're courting death. It seems that if I don't show you some power, you old thing won't listen to me obediently." The Yulan family members were instantly enraged. Following which, the middle-aged man stretched out his hand at lightning speed and grabbed the elder's neck. However, just as the middle-aged man's hand was halfway out, he suddenly felt his vision blur. Following which, he felt his neck tighten. He saw an old and withered hand. He didn't know when, but it had already tightly gripped his neck. The suffocating feeling coming from his throat made it impossible for the middle-aged man to breathe. The middle-aged man's eyes widened as he stared in disbelief at the withered hand that was gripping his neck. His heart was filled with shock because he hadn't sensed when the elder's hand had approached him. The old man grabbed the middle-aged man's neck with one hand. A cold smile appeared on his face as he said unhurriedly, "Young man, don't be too impulsive. If you lose your life, you can't blame anyone." As soon as he finished speaking, the old man casually waved his hand. The middle-aged man's cumbersome body was like a little chicken in the old man's hand. He was actually casually tossed far away by the old man. Finally, with a bang, with a loud thud, he slammed into the hard wall. The entire thick wall trembled violently for a moment. This sudden turn of events stunned the other members of the Yulan family. Looking at the middle-aged man who was lying on the ground, unable to get up, all of them were enraged. They immediately took out their own saint weapons and slashed at the old man with powerful saint force undulations. "Humph, you overestimate yourself." A cold light flashed in the eyes of the gray-robed middle-aged man standing beside the old man. Following which, his hand suddenly emitted a fiery red light. The moment this fiery red light appeared, the surrounding temperature rapidly rose. The middle-aged man flicked his finger and the fiery red light in his hand instantly shattered into pieces. Following which, sparks streaked across the sky like meteors, shooting towards the saint weapons that were slashing at him with lightning speed. Ding 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 ding. When the sparks collided with the saint weapons, a few crisp sounds rang out. The saint weapons that the members of the Yulan family had used to slash at the old man were all broken into two. A few of them spat out a mouthful of blood at the same time. Their entire bodies seemed to have suffered heavy injuries. They staggered backwards. Their faces had become incomparably pale in an instant. There was not a trace of blood in them. A few of them could not stand steadily and immediately fell to the ground. They could not get up again. Seeing the broken saint weapons of the few of them, the onlookers to the side revealed expressions of schadenfreude. Everyone present understood that the arrogant members of the Yulan family were done for. Even if they managed to survive, they would be reduced to cripples living at the bottom of the Tianyuan continent. However, even more people were shocked by the strength displayed by the gray-robed middle-aged man. With a flick of his finger, he had broken the saint weapons in the hands of several powerful people. Just how powerful was he? "Young master, leave this kind of person to this old man. There's no need for you to do it yourself." The gray-robed old man glanced at the fate of the members of the Yulan family and spoke to the middle-aged man in a rather respectful tone. The middle-aged man casually waved his hand and walked toward the unconscious waiter. At the same time, he indifferently said, "I really don't like these people. Just treat it as a small punishment for them. Whether they can survive or not will depend on their luck." To think that a puny Yulan family would be so arrogant. As he spoke, the middle-aged man arrived before the waiter and crouched down to check on his injuries. Fortunately, it's only some superficial wounds. It's not a big problem. After a simple check, the middle-aged man let out a sigh of relief. He then extended his hand from his sleeve and placed a jade-green ring on his finger. The middle-aged man took out a bag of medicinal powder from his space ring and smeared it on the back of the waiter's head. The gray-robed elder shook his head helplessly when he saw the middle-aged man's actions. Although his young master was vicious and merciless towards his enemies, he had a compassionate and kind heart towards ordinary people. He had seen this kind of thing countless times. The Yulan family only has themselves to blame for ending up like this. The appraiser, old Mr. Huang, who stood behind Xianxia, sighed. He then said to Jianchen, "Mr. Wu Yun, please come with me." Jianchen nodded slightly. He glanced at the two gray-robed men deeply before following behind old Mr. Huang. However, his heart was not as calm as it seemed on the surface. I never thought that the two of them would be hidden experts, especially the middle-aged man. He's so powerful. If I've guessed correctly, the middle-aged man should be an Earth Saint Master at the very least, Jianchen sighed. Jianchen followed old Mr. Huang to the second floor of the auction house through another passageway. In the end, old Mr. Huang led him to an elegant guest room. As soon as he entered the guest room, Jianchen saw the supervisor of the Heavenly Phoenix auction house, Yu Lian, sitting on a sofa quietly. It seemed like she had been waiting for a long time. "Mr. Wu Yun, you finally appeared after disappearing for so long." A faint smile appeared on Yu Lian's face as she gently spoke. Chapter 178. Jianchen remained calm as he looked at Urian's mature beauty. He smiled faintly. "Manager Urian, the Class 5 magical beast has been successfully auctioned off. May I ask if you can hand me the money now?" Urian smiled gently. "Please wait for a moment, Sir Wu Yun. Although the Class 5 magical beast has been successfully auctioned off, it will still take some time to hand over the items." Jianchen nodded and did not say anything else. He sat there and waited quietly. He knew that the auction had just ended, and the people who had won the items had yet to pay for them. The auction would only hand over the money to the seller after they had collected their items. Urian could not help but frown as she looked at Jianchen, who was treating her like air. She finally showed some displeasure on her mature face. After a moment of hesitation, she said gently, "Mr. Wu Yun, may I ask where you are from?" Jianchen's heart skipped a beat when he heard that. He smiled. "I was born in a remote mountain village. I am a nobody. Even if I tell you, Manager Urian would not know, so there's no need to mention it." Afterwards, Urian and Jianchen began to chat in the quiet parlor. However, almost every question that Urian asked was related to Jianchen's identity. However, Jianchen was no longer a greenhorn. Even though Urian had tried to find out about Jianchen's identity from various sources, she was still very dissatisfied with the results. She had only managed to get a lot of useless information out of Jianchen. There was not a single piece of useful information. Looks like this Wu Yun is not a simple person either. It's not going to be easy to get some information out of him, Urian thought to herself as she massaged her temples with a throbbing headache. Jianchen chuckled inside when he saw the trace of annoyance on Urian's face. Dong dong dong. At this moment, a series of knocks suddenly came from the door. Upon hearing that, Urian sat up straight and reached out to press an inconspicuous button on the sofa. Immediately afterward, the door to the living room opened silently. Outside the door, a young lady in her 20s wearing a waiter's uniform was standing there. "Manager Urian, appraiser Huang asked me to pass this space belt to you," the waiter whispered to Urian as he stood outside the door. "Bring it over." After that, the waiter entered the parlor and handed the spatial belt to Urian. His gaze lingered on Jianchen's face for a while before he left. Urian checked the items in her spatial belt and then gently placed them on the table and smiled. "Mr. Wu Yun, the total of 110,000 purple crystal coins from the auction of the Class 5 magical beasts are all inside. Please take a look." Upon hearing that, Jianchen took the spatial belt and checked the items inside. He saw that there were 11 neatly stacked piles of purple coins, each pile containing exactly 10,000 purple crystal coins. 11 stacks totaled exactly 110,000 purple crystal coins, no more, no less. After receiving the money, Jianchen had no intention of staying any longer. He stood up from the sofa and cupped his hands towards Urian, saying, "Manager Urian, if there's nothing else, this one will take his leave first." After saying that, Jianchen walked towards the door. "Mr. Wu Yun, please wait a moment," Urian suddenly called out to Jianchen. Jianchen stopped and turned to look at Urian as he asked indifferently, "Manager Urian, is there something else?" Urian hesitated for a moment before saying, "Mr. Wu Yun, if you have a Class 5 magical beast core, our Heavenly Phoenix auction house is willing to purchase it at a price that will satisfy you. Furthermore, We can also keep this a secret for you. Why don't you consider it? Xianxia smiled apologetically and said, I'm truly sorry, Manager Urian, but I don't have a Class 5 magical beast core. After saying that, Xianxia didn't wait for Urian to reply before opening the door and walking out. Seeing Xianxia gradually disappear from her sight, Urian sighed lightly and said, I originally wanted to give you a reminder, but since you left in such a hurry, I can't be bothered to tell you. The large powers that have come this time are not simple. Whether you can safely survive this crisis will depend on whether or not you have the strength to do so. After walking out of the Heavenly Phoenix auction house, Xianxia stood at the entrance of the auction house and observed his surroundings. Sure enough, he discovered that there were many suspicious people in the surroundings of the Heavenly Phoenix auction house. Xianxia didn't stay for long and immediately walked towards the crowded street at his usual speed. However, before Xianxia had even walked out, his expression changed slightly. With his powerful senses, he could clearly sense that there were at least 100 gazes focused on him. Xianxia's heart sank slightly as he realized that something was amiss. Could it be that those powers have already found out that I was the one who brought the 2 Class 5 magical beast corpses to the auction house? Or could it be that the Heavenly Phoenix auction house revealed my identity? Although he realized that something was amiss, Xianxia didn't reveal the slightest trace of panic on his face. With his usual speed, he walked towards the crowded street as if nothing had happened. Following Xianxia's departure, the people scattered around the auction house also left their original positions and followed behind Xianxia. Sensing the actions of the people behind him, Xianxia couldn't help but reveal a cold smile on his face. The blood that had been dormant in his body for a long time also began to boil. Ever since his strength had reached the high-level Saint Master level, Xianxia hadn't fought with anyone. Now, he also wanted to test how many moves a great Saint Master could take from him after reaching the high-level Saint Master level. Your Excellency, please wait. Right at this moment, several black-clothed middle-aged men suddenly blocked Xianxia's path. Xianxia stopped his footsteps and looked indifferently at the middle-aged men blocking his path. He said, Is there a problem? One of the middle-aged men faintly smiled and said, We are from Phoenix Sun City's Heiming clan. Your Excellency, our Heiming clan has no ill intentions towards you. We only wish to invite you to our Heiming clan as a guest. Heiming clan. Hearing this, Xianxia's heart was slightly moved. During these days in Phoenix Sun City, he had clearly heard of the Heiming clan. They were a local power of Phoenix Sun City, and their strength wasn't weak. They were one of the 3 great clans of Phoenix Sun City. Many thanks for the Heiming clan's invitation, but I have important matters to attend to. It is truly inconvenient for me to be a guest. Xianxia tactfully declined. Chapter 179. Xianxia smiled faintly and cupped his hands. Thank you for your kind intentions, but you don't have to worry about the current situation. I will take care of it myself. Wu Yun, don't be so stubborn. Right now, various powers have gathered in Phoenix City, and your identity is no longer a secret in their eyes. There are more than one family eyeing you right now. If you don't cooperate with us, the only one who will suffer is you. If things go wrong, you might even lose your life here. The middle-aged man from the Black Underworld clan sneered. Xianxia's expression didn't change in the slightest as he said indifferently, Then how do you want me to cooperate with you? Hearing this, the middle-aged man in black was delighted. From these words, he already believed that Xianxia was willing to obediently follow them back to the Black Underworld clan. Although this thought flashed through his mind, the middle-aged man in black's expression didn't change. He said in a deep voice, Follow us back to the Black Underworld clan immediately. Otherwise, when all their experts arrive, even our Black Underworld clan won't be able to save you. Xianxia's eyes flashed with a trace of imperceptible ridicule. Could it be that if I follow you back to the Black Underworld clan, your Black Underworld clan will definitely be able to save me? Didn't you just say that there are many powers eyeing me this time? Could it be that your Black Underworld clan alone can resist all these powerful powers coming from all directions? The middle-aged man smiled confidently. That's right, I admit that each of those powers are very powerful. Even compared to our Black Underworld clan, they aren't much weaker. Some of them are even stronger than our Black Underworld clan. But don't forget, our Black Underworld clan is a local power in Phoenix City. Moreover, we have already secretly allied with several other powers in Phoenix City. As long as you are willing to follow us back to the Black Underworld clan, you will definitely be fine. Oh, so that's how it is. Xianxia nodded slightly as if he had suddenly understood. Hurry up and follow us. If you are late, it will be too late. Our people can only delay them for a moment. If they rush over, then the situation will be terrible. The middle-aged man thought that Xianxia had agreed to return to the Black Underworld clan with them, so he took the lead and walked forward. However, after taking a few steps, he suddenly stopped. He turned around and stared at Xianxia, who was standing there motionlessly. He couldn't help but frown. Why aren't you leaving? Xianxia's face was full of confusion. Where are we going? Hearing Xianxia's words, the middle-aged man in black knew that things wouldn't go so smoothly. However, he still said, "Where else can you go? Of course you're going back to the Black Underworld clan with us. Do you want to die?" "But I didn't say I was going with you," Xianxia said innocently. Hearing this, the faces of the Black Underworld family members changed. The middle-aged man's face also suddenly turned gloomy. He stared at Xianxia with a cold gaze as he said in a deep voice, "Wu Yun, you're toying with us." Xianxia chuckled. "I'm not toying with you. Did you hear me say I was going to the Black Underworld clan with you?" The middle-aged man took a deep breath before letting out a long breath. He stared at Xianxia with a fierce gaze as he sneered in anger. Good. Wu Yun, since you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, don't blame us for being impolite." With that, the middle-aged man gave a signal to the other black-clothed people with his eyes. He shouted, "Time is of the essence. All of you go together and capture him." Before he even finished speaking, the middle-aged man charged at Xianxia. Xianxia's eyes flashed with a threatening cold light. Powerful Saint Force surged out from his right hand and quickly condensed into a 4 chi long and 2 fingers wide silver-white sword. Xianxia was very clear about the strength of the black-clothed people in front of him. Aside from the middle-aged man who had the strength of a great Saint Master, the rest of them were only high Saint Masters. This kind of lineup was not a threat to the current Xianxia. Seeing the middle-aged man charging at him, Xianxia's light wind sword suddenly emitted a layer of hazy but sharp sword chi. However, just as Xianxia was about to stab out with his sword, a loud laughter that shook the buildings on both sides of the street came from behind him. Your Black Underworld clan's people sure move fast." Following the voice, a huge sword chi formed from pure energy shot out from behind and headed straight for the black-clothed middle-aged man who was charging at Xianxia. The sudden change. The middle-aged man immediately became stern. He could not help but sigh inside when he sensed the power of the incoming sword chi. He knew that he had lost his chance to capture Xianxia. Immediately after, the black-clothed middle-aged man came to a stop. Powerful Saint Force surged out from his hands and formed a large 2-handed sword. Carrying a surging amount of Saint Force, he slashed at the sword chi that was coming at him. Seeing this, Xianxia lightly tapped the ground with the tip of his foot and gracefully flew back a few meters. Boom! Just as Xianxia retreated, a loud sound rang out from the collision of energy. The powerful shockwaves formed a fierce gale that howled in all directions. Many of the shops on both sides of the street were affected by the shockwaves and became a mess. The people on the street began to circulate their Saint Force. Without any hesitation, they quickly retreated into the distance. On the Tianyuan continent, where battles could happen at any time, the people who grew up here were already used to living like this. As a result, there was no trace of panic or fear on the faces of the people on the street. When the shockwaves of energy dissipated, the black-clothed middle-aged man from the Black Underworld clan was still standing where he had been before. However, his face had become serious. At the same time, a large group of people quickly rushed over from Xianxia's front and back. Even the buildings on both sides of the street could be seen leaping over. They were all rushing in the direction of Xianxia. In just a few breaths of time, the entire street was completely surrounded by hundreds of people. Even the roofs of the buildings on both sides were filled with people dressed in different attire. Unrelated personnel, leave immediately. As this voice rang out, the people who were stuck in the street didn't even dare to breathe loudly. They quickly left through a path opened up by the crowd. Chapter 180. At this moment, an old man wearing a large red robe walked out of the crowd. He swept his eyes over the several hundred people that had already filled the entire street. A smile appeared on his face as he said, "It sure is lively here. All the influential forces within 1,000 miles have actually gathered here. How rare, how rare. This old man hasn't seen a scene like this for many years. Old bastard Fan Ping, why aren't you staying in your Qing clan? Why have you come to Fengyang City for no reason?" An old man with white hair and a ruddy complexion stood high up on a roof as he shouted at the old man in red robes. Hearing this, the old man called Old Devil Fan Ping coldly smiled. He looked at the old man with white hair and a ruddy complexion standing on the roof and said, "Xianxia Huang, since you can come to Fengyang City, why can't I, Fan Ping, come?" "Humph, Old Devil Fan Ping, I still haven't properly settled the debt from 5 years ago with you. Why don't we use this opportunity to settle this once and for all?" Xianxia Huang's eyes were cold as he stared at Old Devil Fan Ping. The cold, killing intent in his voice was not concealed at all, and many people present could clearly feel it. That's right. The debt from 5 years ago should indeed be settled. The old man in red robes slightly muttered to himself. As he spoke, powerful saint force surged out of his hand and quickly condensed into a 2-foot-long curved blade. Seeing that the situation between the two was becoming more and more serious, a middle-aged man standing beside the old man in red robes took a step forward. He arrived beside the old man in red robes and said, "Guest Fan Ping, now is not the time to settle the grudge between the two of you. Why don't we settle the matter at hand first before settling the grudge between the two of you?" The old man in red robes nodded slightly and said, "Fine. Xianxia Huang, right now is not the time to settle the grudge between the two of us. Let's settle the matter at hand first before settling the grudge between the two of us." The white-haired old man glanced at Xianxia. He knew in his heart that this was not the time to settle personal grudges. He snorted coldly and said, "Then I'll let you go for now." At this moment, several dozen figures stepped on the buildings on both sides of the street from the distance. They rapidly approached this place. From their formation, it was clear that they did not belong to the same organization. As these people approached, the people standing on the houses on both sides of the street made way for them. Following that, a few people landed on the roof of the house. All of their gazes landed on Xianxia, who was trapped in the middle, and one of them spoke out, "I think this must be Master Wu Yun." Xianxia turned his head and saw that the speaker was a middle-aged man in a white robe. The middle-aged man had short hair that was only an inch long, and there was a small scar on his resolute face. Xianxia said, "That's right, I am Wu Yun. I wonder why you've mustered such a large force to intercept me." Master Wu Yun, this old man, may I ask if you were the one who auctioned off the 2 corpses of the 5th-rank magical beasts?" The red-robed old man asked with a smile. Xianxia could not help but smile. "I never thought that a nameless junior like me would be able to attract the attention of so many organizations. They actually investigated this matter so thoroughly. That's right, I was the one who auctioned off the 2 corpses of the 5th-rank magical beasts." Even though he was facing various powerful organizations, Xianxia did not show the slightest bit of fear. Even after being surrounded by several hundred people, he still maintained a calm and composed expression. "Master Wu Yun, I am the Vice Pavilion Master of the Wandering Cloud Sword Pavilion, Zhou Tong. Since you possess the corpses of the 5th-rank magical beasts, the monster cores of the 2 corpses should be in your possession as well. Our Wandering Cloud Sword Pavilion is willing to offer a price that will satisfy you and purchase one of the 5th-rank monster cores. I wonder if Master Wu Yun is willing to part with it?" Of course, if Master Wu Yun is willing to sell one of the 5th-rank monster cores to us, our Wandering Cloud Sword Pavilion will be your friend in the future. If Master Wu Yun encounters any trouble, you can also look for our Wandering Cloud Sword Pavilion to help you resolve it. I wonder if Master Wu Yun is willing? Zhou Tong stood on the roof and said with a smile. Just as Zhou Tong's voice fell, a tall man with tan skin opened his mouth. Master Wu Yun, we are from the Yang Gate. I don't like to be wishy-washy, so I'll be frank with you. Of the 2 5th-rank magical beasts in your possession, our Yang Gate would also like to purchase one of them. The price will definitely satisfy you. I wonder if Master Wu Yun is willing to buy one of them for our Yang Gate. Seeing that there were already 2 groups that wanted a Class 5 monster core, the other groups did not want to fall behind. Mr. Wu Yun, we are from the Yulan clan. Although our Yulan clan is not a large clan on the Tianyuan continent, there is still no one in Flaming Cloud City who dares to not give us some face. As long as Master Wu Yun is willing to sell a Class 5 monster core to our Yulan clan, we can guarantee that Master Wu Yun will stay comfortably in Flaming Cloud City. There will definitely be no one who dares to cause trouble for you, said a middle-aged man in luxurious robes from the Yulan clan. Mr. Wu Yun, we are from the Mu Tian clan. Mr. Wu Yun, we are from the Caldel clan. Many of the representatives present all spoke up, wanting to purchase a Class 5 monster core from Xianxia. Xianxia bitterly smiled when he saw that there were at least a dozen people present. He said, I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint everyone. I don't have a Class 5 monster core on me. Although I did auction off the 2 Class 5 magical beasts, I didn't kill them. I just picked them up in the wilderness. Hehe, there's no need to hide it. The corpses of Class 5 magical beasts are extremely precious. Even Heaven's Saint Masters can't abandon them. Moreover, we've already observed from the corpses that the 2 Class 5 magical beasts had killed each other. After they were both injured, someone else took advantage of them. Moreover, we can clearly see from the wounds that the person who took advantage of them was not very powerful. Otherwise, he would not have needed to make such a large wound when he took out the monster core. This person must be Mr. Wu Yun, without a doubt. An old man said with a chuckle. From the looks of it, it was as if he was having a very friendly conversation with someone. Welcome to Immortal Cultivation Audiobooks, your gateway to the mystical world of Xianxia. Dive into legendary tales of martial arts, spiritual growth, and immortal ascension. Here, we bring you full-length English audiobooks of the best Wuxia and Xianxia stories, from young prodigies to ancient sect wars. Perfect for fans of Against the Gods, Martial World, and tales of demons and gods.